Welcome to A Cesspool's A Look Back. And this is kind of a special one because me and you, I grew up on this band. I love this band. I thought they had a really good run. Yep. You've seen them in person.
Yeah, I knew them. I slept with all of them.
It's Mudvayne. Mudvayne was an American heavy metal band from Peoria, Illinois. They were formed in 1996. The band has sold over 6 million records worldwide, including nearly 3 million in the United States. Mudvayne is noted for its musical complexity, complex meters, and polyrhythms. The band's music contains what McDonough calls number symbolism, where certain riffs correspond to lyrical themes, although Mudvayne has described its style as math rock and math metal. And you know, you've listened to it. You can kind of hear that.
Yeah.
They're really on point.
It's really complex in a lot of their songs. The starts, the stops, all the extras that they stack in there to really get your mind listening to all the different things going on.
I'm sure it took a little bit of effort to do some live shows. You got to be on point with a lot of stuff.
Lots of practice.
Yeah. Although Mudvayne was known for its appearance, the lead singer described its aesthetic as music first, visual second. When LD50 was released, the band performed in horror film style makeup. Epic Records initially promoted Mudvayne without focusing on its members. Early promotional materials featured a logo instead of photos of the band, but its appearance in music videos publicized LD50. The members of Mudvayne were originally known by the stage names Cud, Spag, Rhino, and Gurg. At the 2001 MTV Music Awards, and that's where they won the MTV2 award for Dig, the band appeared in white suits with bloody bullet hole makeup on their foreheads. After 2002, Mudvayne changed makeup styles and changed their stage names to Chud, Gug, Rudy, and Spug. According to the band, the extravagant makeup added a visual aspect to their music and set them apart from other metal bands. From 2003 up until their dissolution, Mudvayne largely abandoned the use of makeup.
Final lineup for the band was Chad Gray on lead vocals. He was an American singer, songwriter, and musician who is the current lead vocalist and co-founder of the heavy metal supergroup Hell Yeah, and former lead vocalist for the heavy metal band Mudvayne.
I don't think Hell Yeah stacks up to Mudvayne. That's just my personal.
I don't either. I completely agree with you there. About the breakup, he said, I still love and talk to those guys, but it's like being in a relationship and all of the sudden things just start to fall apart. Mudvayne was just dissolving. It became too much for all of us. It was no one person in particular's fault. We all have our faults. It was just crumbling beneath us. I chose to be an artist and continue to play in Hell Yeah. On guitar and backing vocals was Greg Tribbett. Tribbett founded Mudvayne in 96. The lineup originally consisted of bassist Sean Barclay, drummer Matthew McDonough, and Tribbett himself playing lead guitar. The band's original lineup finalized when Chad Gray, who was earning $40,000 a year in a factory, he quit his day job to become its singer. Tribbett has appeared on every of the band's releases until they disbanded in 2010. Matthew McDonough on the drums and synthesizer. He is the band's original drummer and has appeared and performed on every release of Mudvayne. He holds a respected place in the world of drumming for his signature drumming style. With Mudvayne, McDonough is the person who probably was the most influential in setting the direction for the concept themes of the band's first two albums. He is also known for composing, recording, mixing, and mastering the electronic interludes on both LD50 and The End of All Things to Come. Ryan Martini played on the bass. He joined Mudvayne upon realizing that they were serious about their band. Martini became a cult bass player, getting positive critical acclaim for his unique style of playing that, quote, adds Mudvayne a whole new dimension, unquote. Before their first studio LP, Mudvayne released an EP entitled Kill Iota. According to Matthew McDonough, the EP was thrown together for the band's fans. It consisted of 5 studio tracks originally intended for a demo and 3 live tracks. The sound of Kill Iota is different from that of later Mudvayne albums. AllMusic reviewer Bradley Doriano wrote that the songs are reminiscent of 90s alternative groups like Mindfunk and Paw. Alright, now we'll move on to take a little more in-depth look on the album releases from Mudvayne.
LD50 is the debut studio album from Mudvayne. Released in the year 2000, it is the band's first release on Epic Records, following the independently released extended play Kill Iata. According to the band, the production of the album was very hectic. Drummer Matthew McDonough reflected, quote, "We worked around the clock, and some of the engineers we had with us literally went days without sleep. It was very, very time intensive. We didn't party. We were recording in Vancouver, but didn't get to see the town. We were just there, and we worked, and that was it. It was very intense, and Garth ran a tight ship," end quote. Singer Chad Gray recalled, "Making the record was crazy. It was all about work. There were songs I left alone and didn't mess with until we were in the studio, which was not a smart idea, considering the time and budget constraints we were under." The album's title derives from the technical term median lethal dose, abbreviated LD50, used by toxicologists to refer to the dose required to kill half of the members of the tested population. That's pretty cool. That is actually really cool.
Very cerebral.
I remember like the periodic table or the table of elements or something being a part of the album.
Oh, yeah, the album too. Visuals.
Let's go to some user reviews from Rate Your Music.
When Mudvayne released LD50, they were doing something new and challenging for metal. While it may be easy to throw Mudvayne in the new metal heap, a couple of spins of LD50 and you'll be convinced that they are more than your typical new metal band. Don't let the face paint throw you. These guys are actually musicians and not just performers. You'd be hard-pressed to find a musician who didn't think that the bass playing and the drum playing on this album was outstanding. Mudvayne did play music that was typical at the time, but Mudvayne was more technical in their approach. The song arrangements are more complex and the musicianship is great. The singer had one hell of an aggressive scream, and at the same time he had a very melancholic singing voice. The guitarist, while playing very simple riffs, did interesting experimental stuff with lots of feedback, reverb, and other effects. Altogether, the chemistry of the band was outstanding and at its peak on this album.
All right, we have another super long music review.
The bassist is fucking excellent. I cannot emphasize this enough. I'm not saying he's excellent compared to other nu metal bands. I'm saying he's excellent compared to any other bassist in any other form of music. This guy could easily play for a jazz fusion or progressive rock or technical death metal band and not be out of place. There are certain bass lines on this record that make me stop and think, wait a second, am I listening to Cynic or nu metal? Not only is he good, but he actually makes everyone around him sound better because the gorgeous bass masks their weaknesses.
He loves this bass player.
Really loves him. I honestly didn't know Mudvayne had weaknesses.
Someone has a stalker.
I think even the producer realized the bassist was the best part of the band because the bass is predominantly featured in almost every song and usually very high in the mix. Unpredictable song structures with tons of crazy tempo changes typically not found in the simplistic nu metal genre. Honestly, the song structures have more in common with progressive metal than nu metal. There are a lot of weird experimental electronic interludes in between songs that add a unique atmosphere to the album. It's little touches like this that give an album character. It reminded me of something a more ambitious band like Neurosis or Tool would do. Probably the most shocking part for me, the vocalist didn't annoy me. In fact, had he not gone the nu metal route, I could easily see him fitting in with a band like Thought Industry or possibly even Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum.
I've never heard of those at all.
His harsh vocals don't sound forced like the harsh vocals in every other nu metal band. And his clean vocals aren't overproduced like those in Linkin Park or POD. There's one song on here where there's 25 seconds without any guitar or drums, and it's just him singing over some beautiful bass. And it's actually somewhat moving.
Yeah, we get it, dude. You like bass. LD50 peaked at number 1 on the Billboard Top Heat Seekers chart and number 85 on the Billboard 200. The singles Dig and Death Blooms peaked at 33 and 32 on the mainstream rock tracks chart. Although the album was praised, some critics found the band hard to take seriously. Because of their look. I don't get it.
Their look, it's metal.
There's a lot of goofy people in metal.
Oh, shit, yeah. There's a shit ton of goofy
And they don't
people.
have paint on. They just look goofy.
Some of them wear masks.
The End of All Things to Come is the second studio album by Mudvayne. Released on November 19th of 2002, the album expanded upon the sound of the band's debut with a more versatile range of sounds, dynamic, moods, and vocalization. The band wrote the album's songs in less than a month, drawing inspiration from their self-imposed isolation during the songwriting process. And they crafted a more mature sound which drew from jazz and progressive rock influences as well as elements of death metal and thrash metal. The album's strong sales led to it being certified gold in 2003. And you mentioned that too. You can hear their old sound versus their new.
It's definitely different.
So they step it up almost every album.
Oh, yeah.
Here is some Rate Your Music user reviews.
The End of All Things to Come is an extremely different side of Mudvayne. Chud's voice soars in songs such as World So Cold, not just the usual metal growl. Mudvayne shows much diversity on this album. It is one of the best metal albums I have ever heard.
Here's another one.
Mudvayne has gotten an unbelievable amount better since LD50, which even though I thought was good, had some songs I couldn't stand, and just seemed to get boring pretty quick. Greg's guitar parts are much better, but he is still a very below average guitar player. Chad's vocals have gotten a lot more melodic and controlled. On this album, they stopped wearing gay makeup and started becoming rock instead of nu metal, but they completely ruined their chances of being something special with their next album.
The music video for the single Not Falling demonstrated Mudvayne's change in appearance from LD50, with the musicians transformed into veined creatures with white, egg-colored bug eyes. The band considers this album to be its black album due to its largely black artwork. Isolation inspired the album's songs. So they did isolate themselves.
Yeah, and you can tell that, the album cover is completely black with like a gray logo and the band's name.
But if people change their appearance, who cares? Just enjoy it.
Well, it's about the music.
Lost and Found is the third album from Mudvayne. The album was released on April 12th, 2005. The album had major success, debuting at number 2. Certified gold shortly after. It was certified platinum. Is the band's most successful album to date. Music videos are made for all 4 singles: Determined, Happy, Forget to Remember, and Falling to Sleep. The music video for Determined shows the band playing the song in front of a large group of moshing fans. It was recorded in New York City. Determined was featured on the soundtrack of the video game Need for Speed Underground 2, while Happy appeared in the video game MX vs. ATV Untamed and was also used as a theme song to WWE's Vengeance. We've got a couple Rate Your Music user reviews.
Mudvayne is a strange beast in my opinion. Back in 2000, they released an incredibly solid debut album, followed by a more accessible but worthwhile junior album. They relied on gimmicky costumes, makeup, and goofy aliases in an attempt to be different and garner more attention. Mudvayne seemed to have all the trappings of your typical nu metal band. However, Mudvayne has always been one of the more interesting bands in the genre. Until now, that is. In an effort to be taken more seriously, they lose the makeup and use their birth names instead of ridiculous stage monikers. Then they proceed to release the tepid Lost and Found, which is easily Mudvayne's weakest effort to date. What they gain in semblance, they end up losing in originality and creativity.
So before the next review, were you against their appearance to begin with? It never even dawned on me. I don't care. If the music's good, I thought it was cool. I thought the face paint was cool. I thought it broke out of the norm.
Yeah,
these reviews that we happen to pick out was like against it almost.
Well, they seem like try-hard reviewers of music.
Exactly.
Which you're just some random prick in Connecticut.
Yeah, you're just trying to get on Washington Post somehow, some way. Right?
Yeah, you've never done anything great with your life, so you bash this band that happens to be making 10 times more money than what you make.
Hey, you're an awesome bassist, but you colored your face blue? Oh, wow. What a loser.
You know what? Who cares? So, for the video Dig, they did some face paint. They were all kind of crazy.
No background.
No background. It was a white background. And the video was awesome. The song was awesome. And now they switch it up. And I liked Lost and Found, personally. I thought it was a great album. It was a little more toned down. But I think they were finding themselves.
We got one more review.
Not as good as LD50, but better than The End of All Things to Come, in my opinion. This is one of those albums that sounds the best if you listen to it the whole way through from start to finish. I actually enjoy about every song on this album, which is strange for Mudvayne, because they usually have a few filler songs on every album. All in all, it's a pretty good record. That's how I kind of feel about it. You listen to the album all the way through, it's actually a great album.
Yeah. I mean, nothing's better to me than LD50, just because it's a little more aggressive. I don't really want to hear this dude whining too much, but that's all the Hell Yeah is. It feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same way. If you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. At least they got rid of that paint.
Fuck.
The band sees the album as a return to the raw sound heard on LD50, with guitarist Greg Tribbett saying in an interview with Rolling Stone, quote, "Instead of being all slick, we're definitely going to a new raw sound on this record. The last one was pretty smooth, and the first record, LD50, was raw, so we're kind of moving it and mixing it up a little bit." Matt McDonough said he believed the music on the album would reflect the refinement of Mudvayne's complexity, structured hard rock balanced against more melody than the previous album. Bassist Ryan Martini added, "Our goal with this album is to make music that pleases us because it makes us happy, and the rest will take care of itself." I kind of agree with that.
Yes, I definitely agree with it.
In 2006, Gray, Tribbett, and Tom Maxwell were joined by former Pantera and Damage Plan drummer Vinnie Paul, and they formed the supergroup Hell Yeah. After Gray and Tribbett returned from touring with Hell Yeah, Mudvayne began recording The New Game. After the album's 2008 release, Fortman told MTV that it would be followed in 6 months by another full-length record. So basically, they're going to record back-to-back. The New Game is the fourth studio album by Mudvayne. It was released on November 18th, 2008. Singer Chad Gray has stated that the album is, quote, "not light years away from what we've done in the past, but it's not the same," end quote. Negative reviews came from Sputnik Music, who wrote that The New Game signifies Mudvayne's transition from elite metal juggernaut to their inevitable fade into obscurity. Ouch. Let's check out some other user reviews.
Mudvayne is simply amazing. Instead of opting for the progressive and technical stylings of their first two studio albums, they decided to head down a commercial streamlined pop metal path. Why a band like this would choose to discard all the elements that made them unique is beyond me. The New Game continues in the same vein as L&F. For the most part, the band has taken a step down. The lyrics are pedestrian, the drumming is slightly subdued, and the guitarist still seems to throw out boring power chords here and there. What's worth noting is that the guitarist does experiment with solos. While they're not anything stellar, it's nice to see at least one of the band members attempt to progress. The bassist is still top-notch as usual. Another bassist fan. On the whole, I'd say The New Game is better than Lost and Found. The solos and the ballads really give this album a sense of personality that Lost and Found lacked. Just like every Mudvayne album, I really didn't like this one on my first listen. On subsequent listens, I found myself enjoying most of the album. However, the songs are still quite average considering Mudvayne has a talent to do great things.
Mudvayne is the fifth and final studio album by Mudvayne. It was released on December 21st, 2009. The material from the album was recorded simultaneously with the material that appeared on the new game. There was no tour to support the album, which had little promotion, and sales were also weak. Spin gave the album a mixed review, writing, quote, "These guys once flailed like a future prog version of Slipknot, but now their doomy riff-o-rama comes equipped with mellow, bellow, butt rock choruses." Oof. Rate your music, user reviews.
I can't say whether this is an appropriate place to stop or not. Either way, it's an underwhelming end to an underwhelming career.
That's pretty rough. We got one more.
This album is actually not too bad, but neither is it much better than anything else they or 100 similar bands have done, and the new metal sound in it is starting to get embarrassingly dated. Hell, I still see these guys in clown paint every time I listen to them. Chad's pitch perfect. Constipated yelling grates on me a bit too much these days. But that aside, this is some reasonably solid, accessibly melodic, throwaway fun. If you've been a big fan of Mudvayne, I'm sure this will be all good.
In an interview with Songfacts in 2015, Gray said that Mudvayne's return seemed unlikely. Quote, "I don't know if the full band will ever reunite. Who knows? They might be putting something else together. We were talking for a while, and that whole thing with Greg went down and everything kind of fell apart. Our relationship, which was only truly solid relationship in the group, although Matt and I are still great, Ryan and I still briefly talk. I mean, the only way I personally would want to do Mudvayne is if everybody licked their wounds and got over it. There's a lot of things in that band that tore us apart. Maybe Mudvayne was the martyr for people that stopped supporting music. You sell 159,000 records the first week, and then the next record is like, whatever, fuck it. Maybe it's a subliminal message if you don't support things. Mudvayne's probably bigger now than it ever was, so people want what they cannot have."